Hello, hello, hello. Today I kind of wanted to talk about DP and just kind of go over the idea of tankiness in BDO. It's a little confusing because people just don't seem to understand that when it comes to tankiness, it's really just about understanding how DR works, EVA works, and blocks. Blocks are huge because tankiness comes in different forms. If you get like gripped up, right, like you get grabbed, first of all, like let's say a Zerker grabs you, no matter who you are going to die in that grab. Like that is just facts. They have EVA shred, they have accuracy, they can go all the way up to 30% accuracy. So even if you are like EVA'd out, you could be a full shy build, there is still a high possibility you might die to a Zerker that is actually geared and knows the correct combo. There's this kind of, newbie console belief where the more DP you have, the more likely you are to walk away from a combo. And I'm going to be honest with you, that only happens if you're one, evasion, or two, you are, a mega gearlet or something. Like that is, like you have to, the person you are fighting is like, 402 gear score or something. Like that is, it is not physically possible to build such a high DP to the point of you can't die. That just doesn't exist. Especially from a gear versus gear standpoint, that is when you start to learn this idea. Because back in the day when I used to be a newbie player, I would automatically assume that the moment that I can get like 500 DP or 400, the bracket where it's like 401, if I can reach that bracket, bro, I'm goated. I don't have to worry about anything. I'm just, I'm never gonna die. It's crazy. And then you realize, oh shit, that's not how that fucking works. I'm just keeping it a stack, okay? Like this happens very often where people will just assume that the more DP you dump onto yourself, the more you're just going to, be unkillable, and you're going to be this just unstoppable being that will prevent you from dying. And that just doesn't exist in BDO. So just throw that notion out right now. And I'm just going to talk about the differences in tankiness and what you should be focusing on to increase your likeliness of survivability. Now, before we get into that, I do want to make it clear that there are just going to be those players playing those classes that are just going to kill you. That no matter what your DP is and no matter what strategy you use, the classes that they play and the gear that they have is going to just allow them to absolutely just destroy you in an instant. So real quick, I've got two builds here. All right, I've got a DR build and I have an evasion build on a striker. So one is a guardian, one is a striker. There's two different routes that you can go when it comes to building tankiness on both of these classes. It's not as black and white as just stack DP and one class will be tanky. One class actually has more benefits for DP than the other actually. The guardian actually benefits more from higher DP than the striker does. I mean, the striker has different modifiers when it comes to all this nonsense, right? Because they're based off of evasion. The higher their evasion, the more likely they are to live. You could, you could drop this DP down to like, let's just say, for example, if I were to do this, right, 364, obviously the striker is going to be less tanky. It's just a given because it's less DR. Even though you're an EVA player, you still want DR so that way you can reduce damage in general. So it's a fact that this is going to happen. But still, you could be this DP and you could still get up from combos very easily. But once again, this is also highly dependent on whatever class you are fighting. So for example, Zerker, you're dead. Doesn't matter what you do, who you are, you're dead, right? But you could fight something that's accuracy starved that doesn't necessarily have a ton of accuracy in general. And guess what? You probably might get up from those combos, especially like, let's say, for example, I don't want to say mystic. What's the word here? What's something? I don't even know what class it's like accuracy starved, but like just any class that doesn't have insane accuracy modifiers versus a striker, especially since like if it's a magic class too, bro, you're getting up from like every combo, even with this kind of DP. 364 is not a lot by any degree on console. In fact, it's probably like the common spot right now for top end players that are just in relevant siege guilds, like 364-ish. 370 something around there. That's pretty common right now. But the difference is that this is technically tankier in my opinion, especially when you add on the extra stuff like the resplendent alchemy stone of protection, which adds 170 HP plus some evasion and DR. And the same thing goes for buffs too. I've got a ton of like buffs here, right, for like cap node wars and stuff, and just in general for grinding and everything. And there's two different buffs that I have. One's like just AP monkey with just everything that involves just AP in general, right? And then I have the EVA buff, which has the little, the buck, which is 20 evasion. And then we have our crystal setups, which is, we go down here, we go Eva mode, which is, this is just in general the basics here of like, building Eva. It's not exactly like maybe the most optimal, I'm not sure, but like I'd say that this is a pretty decent starting point to getting around 1100 evasion, which is something that you want to aim for whenever you're getting towards that end game option. Now you could hard stack evasion personally, like you could really hard stack it if you actually wanted to, where you would build like, what is it? I think it's those like blue agility crystals. Hold on one second. I think it's agility. Yeah, you could stack like 8 of these bitches and you'd be able to, be really tanky, but you would have 0 accuracy just about. You would have like next to no accuracy, which would be stupid as hell. But like if you're just there to be supportive and annoying, I mean, it could be functional to some degree, especially in a group fighting where, you have somebody that can kill and you're just the CC bot and annoying character. I mean, it's a functional build. It just depends on scenario. But again, yeah, if you factor in all that, the DP matters less and this Eva number matters more. Again, let me stress, DP is still necessary. You still want to get as high as DP as you physically can, but it's not all about that. You don't necessarily need insane DP to be tanky as an Eva player. Does it help? 100%. Is it needed? It's debatable, but like, yeah. Now let's come on over here to the Guardian, okay? Now, this person has like no evasion. Like we're talking sub 900. Like this is dust, nothing. You could even throw on the Eva crystals, right? And it would still be under 900. It wouldn't help you at all. Oops, I forgot to put the Kudum at C7. So real quick, as you can see, the gear is pretty much identical. The problem is that you have no Eva, right? So how do we get tankiness on this character? Believe it or not, it's the more expensive option, because tankiness on a DR character comes from the DP stack and accessories that will give you DP, right? And there's also like other accessories that you can like mix in, right? There's options that you can mess around with that will give you some kind of DR that will benefit you to some degree. For example, distos at the end game level, you kind of want to get rid of these. Like you don't want to get rid of them, right? Because you want to hold high brackets for Kudum, like 304 Kudum. This is huge. This is really good for grinding. However, when it comes to PvP, this kind of, this doesn't really matter because you want to PvP with Nuver, because guess what? Your AP with Nuver, you're 317. This is a lot of AP, but it's also excessive. I shouldn't have to tell you that once you hit the 309 bracket, the AP stacking kind of becomes less and less notable. Like you're not really going to be going, oh dude, I want to hit 340 AP. Like, I mean, you can, but like why? What would be the point? The minute difference that you would get from 309 to 340, I'm serious, you would hardly notice it. I'm not even kidding. You would literally not notice it. Some people will say that they notice it. Personally, I've done that multiple times where I've gone up and down, changing accessories around, trying to mess around. I have found that 309 to 316, that's like the cutoff point. Once you reach 316, cut it off. Just stop stacking AP, because now you can start getting froggy with different builds, okay? So from a DR perspective, right, we need to get rid of these distos and we need to still maintain decent brackets. How do we do that? How do we get tankiness while maintaining AP? Personally, for me, I've taken a shine to Narcs. I think these are the wave. Personally, right now on console, this is just something that I'm doing and I've been running for a while. And then we can change around and kind of function a little bit different with certain accessories, right? We can mess around with options, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be with changing accessories. It could be something as simple as just changing a cup in an accessory. For example, if you're running these critical hit damage, glass cannon cups, these are good. I don't want to knock these, because I actually use these as well for my AP build whenever I'm grinding or whenever I'm, trying to blow somebody up and I'm just, dropping damage in Cap Node Wars. These are actually not bad at all. However, for the idea of tankiness, this serves no purpose other than just, you being glass cannon type character, and that's just not going to be the wave. The thing with DR and shield classes is that they literally are based around a shield, which means that HP and DP affect your shield strength. So when it comes to that, you want to stack as much HP as physically possible. So that would mean going with the HP cups, and then you go with the Voltara belt, and then you go with the blue cup, because you want the 6 DR, which will affect your block, and then you want the extra 125 HP. Look at that. We went from 5. What the hell were we? Hold on one second. Let me just put this back real quick. Oh, I changed 10. What the fuck? I'm retarded. Okay, so 5748. Okay, then we change this back to the blue cups here, and we're at almost 6k HP. And then we've also got, you know, this down here at 125 with just a Voltara belt, and even at Tet too, right? If we change this to Tet, it's still 100 extra HP. It's still good. But as you can see, we still maintain above the 309 bracket. And on top of that, we have gotten a significantly higher amount of DP as well as HP. We're almost 6,000. And mind you, I don't even think I have like insane stats on this character. Like where do I go to the gear build? Hold on one second. I mean, was it character info? Yeah, I don't even like think. Yeah, see, like I'm just gonna put these at 30 because it's kind of like the soft cap point here. So we're just gonna put these all like right here at 30. Leave it at that for the time being. I think this is fine. So now with everything at 30, look at that, 6,200 HP, bro. That's nuts. And your block is gonna be noticeable, even though that you still might get one-shotted when you get grabbed, or if you get like snuck up on, and you know, modifiers coming from back attacks, air attacks, etc. That's not the point. Tankiness is in different forms on every character. For example, Striker. This tankiness comes from the evasion, but it's not just the invasion, right? It's like the evasion. It's not just that. It's also factoring in that this class is entirely based around super armors, which means they can linger super armors, they can linger forward guards, they can do all sorts of different things. And believe it or not, they can also stack HP too, which also strengthens their guards and also everything else. That's why DP is also important on a character that is based around Eva too, because again, it affects FGs. So now for the Guardian, we've significantly increased our tankiness, but it does not change the fact that if you get grabbed or if you get CC'd or whatever, you're still most likely going to die. That is why Striker, in terms of just like, you know, fighting in general, being this brawler bruiser type class, this is the tanky class. If you're looking for something that is going to be tanky and you're going to get up from combos and you're going to, you know, walk away from certain damage types, and not only that too, but decrease the effectiveness of range pressure. That is what the Striker does, or just Eva classes in general that run off of high evasion. You can de-incentivize range pushes in general, right? So for a good example here, let me try and pull up the Zerker's kit. All right, so we've got the Zerker kit up right now. Okay, we're gonna go all the way down to Awakening, and I'm gonna show you guys something. Okay. So Titan Blow, everybody likes to complain about this ability and just, you know, was like, oh, Titan Blow is so broken. Let me show you guys something, okay? So this attack, right? If you notice here, it has quite literally zero, and I mean seriously, zero accuracy, none. Like this is a dusty ass ability when it comes to, you know, just hit rate in general. But then you check out an ability like ground lifting, for example, accuracy rate plus 20%. So as you can tell, like Titan Blow, yes, it is a very powerful ranged ability on the right target though. It is not going to one-shot a Eva player. It just doesn't happen. It doesn't exist. It's not something that is physically possible. And then you could also factor in, you know, something like Seismic too, which also again has a certain bit of accuracy on it. There are tons of abilities that Zerker has to make these abilities, you know, a little bit stronger. Another good example would be Stormy Beast. If we take a look at this, one accuracy rate on here too. That's not the important thing though. The important thing is melee evasion rate minus 12%. Any Eva player that is running this, or just Eva in general, this is going to be very dangerous because you cannot get hit by this. If you get hit by this at all, you're dust, you're dead, you're done, you're goodbye. Forever box you go. Now let's also take a look at this ability, Absolute Headbutt. This one is by far the most dangerous ability a Zerker has in the kit. Everybody likes to talk about Titan Blow, Seismic, Scatter Shot, you know, Q buff, whatever. No, the most dangerous ability is Headbutt. Because if you get hit by this, no matter who you are going to pass the fuck away. 15% melee accuracy for 10 seconds. I don't even need 3 seconds to kill you if I hit you with this headbutt. And then you dogpile Storming Beast on top of headbutt. That's just the bread and butter Zerker combo right there. Storming Beast, headbutt, ground lift, bada bing, you're dead, bro. You got zero evasion and you are gonna die. But that's my point of the specific scenarios. There's not exactly a concrete way to avoid damage, right? Like there's always going to be that counter. There's always going to be that thing that kills you. And the thing that you have to realize is that whatever class you're playing, you need to study your abilities. You need to study the builds that people are running. There's a ton, and I mean a ton of people that have different sort of builds. I've done goofy builds before too myself, if I'm being realistic. If we go over here, right, I've done this build right here where I built 2 pen Tungrad rings, which I still have this build, by the way. I never use it anymore because it's kind of impractical, but like I've done this build before and it may look goofy on paper. I mean, we have to put 2 black stars, but like, yeah, like if we do this right, 310, like this is good. This is still good. It's still relevant. It's still viable. Like, does it function? Yeah, but like you have to think about it. Is this Renaros ring worth it? 1, you get damage reduction +5. Pretty good. That's not bad at all. That's actually kind of fire in the grand scheme of things. It's actually really, really good, and I fuck with it heavy, and that's why I kind of wanted to do that goofy build, because I thought that it actually had some viability. But the problem was that my AP at that time when I was running that build, it was a bit difficult because I didn't have a pen neck at that time, so I was below 309, and even then too I didn't have double pen black stars either. I only had 1, so I was running a C9 dandy, so I wasn't even 301 AP with that. So even though this still had some kind of functional viability to some degree, it only made sense on certain classes, like my Succession Warrior. This was actually phenomenal for my Succession Warrior because I was able to, 1, maintain the AP brackets for 301, so that was helpful, but also I was able to boost the strength of my grabs, or not my grabs, my shield. My shield was so strong, like it was almost virtually unbreakable. Even with people that had insane AP on me, like they would still struggle breaking through my shield. So even though this build has some sort of viability, the only way to even strengthen it further is by building more DP. So you build something like this, right? But the problem is that now you're below 301. Now we have a serious issue. Even though you're bordering 401 DP, you're sacrificing a lot of AP. And even though I could wholeheartedly say Succession Warrior can function with this kind of AP, there's not a lot of classes that can. Another good example of a DR class would be like DK, for example. Dark Knight is an interesting class because you would assume that Sork's Eva would make more sense on a DK. I'd argue that thank God that it's not, but like imagine if it was, it would be really, really gross if that was physically, a thing, right? But DK is like this weird in between, right? Where there's no tankiness to that character whatsoever. It just doesn't happen. It's not supposed to. It has iframes, it has mobility, it has damage. If you put evasion on that character, or you put any kind of like high DP, it's not going to make a difference. Another great class is Succession Ranger as well as Archer. Both of those classes are squishy till like the end of the year, especially if you are a DR player, right? Like Succession Ranger, you don't run Eva on that. That's just not something you do. But Awakening Ranger is a different conversation, which we're not talking about. So those 2 ranged characters, if you were to build this kind of, build on those characters, this would do nothing for you. I'm not even kidding. It would do absolutely nothing. And I could even take it a step further by just doing this, right? I'm just going to go ahead and do this so that way you guys get the point across, right? So you could do something as dumb as this, okay? And forget the AP. Just pretend the AP doesn't exist, okay? But like the DP, focus on this for a second, all right? You could do this on an Archer and it wouldn't change nothing. It's as if they have 310 DP. Like 300 DP, nothing. Like they would still die in like 2 shots. The thing that would go up though is their forward guard abilities as well as their SA abilities. They would be able to tank a little bit more in those, but at the cost of damage, which makes no sense for a glass cannon character that's meant to shoot people from a range. That's why Zerkers have a unique build possibility. Like I'd say Zerker has the most like build utility or just variety that they can do, because no matter what their AP is, in Awakening, if you know what you're doing, you can kill anybody at any AP, and but again, that comes with skill. You can't just throw Titan Blow, and because that's just not gonna happen. You're never gonna kill anybody if that's all you do is throw Titan Blow. Maybe DR targets, you might be able to get away with that, especially squishy DR targets like Rangers, Archers, etc. But when you start fighting these tankier bruiser classes like warriors, Valkyries, that's not going to cut it anymore. You actually are going to have to full combo them. And that's where AP comes into play. So you have to find this balance of AP, DP. What exactly can I do to get best of both worlds? And that's realistically by still building AP accessories, but also trying to find at least some middle ground with cups, as well as trying to find some kind of middle ground with the other accessories. Another good thing that people do, which I've done recently, I thought this was kind of fire. I took away my narcs and I put on these accessories. I put on Tet Manos ruby earrings. Now, people are sleeping on these because these things are nutty. I'm not even gonna hold you. These things are actually kind of fire. And a lot of people are like, it sucks that you can't put cups on them because that would actually make them super nice. And I would probably run them all the fucking time. But the fact of the matter is that AP is kind of like throwaway for the earrings, right? Like you don't, people want, if you want AP, you just run distos and that's kind of it, right? Like that's the AP that you would run. But if you want true defensive stats, you run these bad boys. Look at this. Damage reduction 13, EVA, HP. What the fuck are we talking about right now? These earrings are god tier. And they still give you relatively decent accuracy, which is kind of whatever, but like still it's worth mentioning. The point is that like even with something as simple as this, right? You could raise your tankiness by a lot and still be functional. When I had my Valkyrie tagged, for example, I ran these for a little bit and believe it or not, I was still able to function below 290 AP at full C15, right? I had these bad boys, I had Pen Eye of the Ruins, and then I had full C15 gear, so I was sitting roughly around like what I think was close to like 420 DP, something like that, and it was phenomenal. I would still be able to kill people on my Valkyrie with these earrings on. I'm talking geared people. I'm fighting like the 1%ers, and I'm still able to function with these earrings. This probably falls off way later in the PC meta, right? But at the moment on console, these earrings are incredibly viable and I love them. They're great. But again, this would only really make sense on a character like Valkyrie that can function like that. You know, where her main thing is kind of like CCs, healing, and then when she does get a catch, she has to be able to dispatch them really quickly. I'm talking, you got to drop the spear, you got to hit him with Terra Sancta, and then you just got to, you know, sometimes you just got to get out. If you watch any good Valkyrie player, they'll be able to show you that, you know, sometimes you just can't finish a combo. Sometimes you have to reposition and re-engage. That's just Valkyrie in a nutshell. But Warrior, for example, Warrior with this, don't get me started. You can do some goofy stuff with this, and it's crazy. And don't even get me started on caps, okay? Like, I just want to, like, in conclusion here, all right? Caps suck. First of all, for evasion, I don't think they're very good. I think they're functional, and it can be functional, but I think that there's still room to be. I think that 1000 evasion should be the cap for T3s specifically. I think that Eva's very squishy, and strikers don't have a lot of room to work with. Same with mystics. I think that their damage is phenomenal in T3s, but like their Eva sucks. Like I can Titan blow an Eva striker on T3s and they die all the same. You could tell me they're Eva or DR and I just assume they're DR because that's what it feels like. So I do think Eva is pretty undertuned in my opinion in caps, but that's just me. Just explore your character, understand what makes them tanky. If it's evasion, guess what? Evasion's the move. You got to get Libra's Muskins, and then you also got to get the proper crystals, you know what I'm saying? You got to get your Harfias here. You got to get your special Evas. I mean, every class should be wearing these in general, but you get the point. You also got to have the agilities. These are an absolute must. You need these. And then you could also, you know, goofy stack these agilities if you really want to just kind of be obnoxious, but it's not practical. It can be functional. And if you want more tankiness, then you need to start stacking DP, which means that, you know, you need to go ahead and start getting narcs. And once you start getting narcs, this is when you start reaching really heavy tanky territory because you're still maintaining high evasion, right? But you lost some AP, but believe it or not, 304 down to 298 is not that big of a difference. And as I mentioned, Striker does not need a lot of AP to kill. I could kill somebody as low as, you know, 265 AP on a Striker. I've done it many a times. I've even done a whole video on it. So yeah, I mean, it is what it is, but like, if you just, evasion is the way for tankiness when it comes to certain classes. And when it comes to DR, especially shield classes, you want to focus on strengthening the shield and your super armors, which means you need to build HP. HP is the way to go. HP and DP, and then for Eva, it's going to be Eva and HP. And again, please don't expect to walk away from every combo. If you could physically do that in every character or any character, everybody would play that character, because that's what people want. People want to be unstoppable gods, and if that was the way that the nature of this game was, I would not play it, because that would be unfun. And it's already kind of getting to that point where there's too much damage in the game, there's too many protections, too much speed, and it's not fun. It's like Dracania and Sages. We got to get rid of those classes, like nerf them already, especially Dracania. Sage, honestly, you can keep the same, maybe tone down the damage a little bit, but other than that, Dracania, get that fucking class out of here. I don't want to see that shit. But anyway, that's it for today's video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I will talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.